let's talk hallucinations. I have visual and auditory hallucinations. Some of my visual hallucinations range from kind of like minor things to bigger issues, problems. One of the minor things would be bugs. I visualize bugs crawling on me. Sometimes I visualize bugs in my hair, eating my scalp, or under my skin. Ooh, it's giving me goosebumps because I hate bugs so much. Ooh. So sometimes I picture them under my skin. Sometimes I picture them crawling on me. And I actually see these things. I see them, I feel them in my skin, on my skin, crawling on me, in my hair. Wherever I'm visualizing them, I actually feel and see them. There's also a creature that lives in my woods, or so I believe. It doesn't seem to be a violent creature, but it is a creature nevertheless, so I'm kind of scared of it. There's woods in front of my house, and there seems to be a creature that I see from time to time that stares out and watches me. So that's one of them. There's other ones that aren't so bad, like I visualize maybe my family members here, my family members that I could talk to and maybe make plans with, and then I'll call them up later and be like, hey, remember the plan that we made for today? And they're kind of like, oh, I don't know. So, I used to see dismembered body parts in my sink or in my bathtub, and those used to really freak me out. Like, I would just suddenly see a severed foot or something like that. There was times where I also see the man, which I talked about in a previous video. But the man he's a tallish man, an old-timey kind of looking man. He's not old per se, he's probably older than me, but he's not an old man. I mean old-timing in the sense that he wears like an old-timey suit, he has a monocle, he has a mustache, he has a hat, he has a cane. Usually he just observes me and stuff, but when he speaks to me, it tends to be mean, it tends to be commands to hurt myself, to hurt others, to that I'm worthless, things like that. He likes to laugh at me when I feel like I messed up. He's one of the strongest voices that I have, actually. He's also the one that I see the most. We don't give him a name. We don't want him to have a name because I feel like that would make him more real. So we just call him the man. I also hear female voices, and his voice isn't the only male voice I hear. I hear man and female voices. They tend to be mean. The easiest for me when I hear the voices is when I feel like I'm in a crowded room and I can't hear a specific voice, especially just kind of feels like I'm in the mall or something. I can make it be background noise, kind of like a buzz in the background. I could kind of ignore it, but when it becomes specific commands and specific words is harder for me to deal with, because sometimes they get so repetitive and they repeat so much and they just get in my brain so well that I sometimes can't tell what's my thoughts and what's their voices telling me to do. Sometimes I don't know where I begin and these voices begin. I get these that I call anti-hallucinations, and I didn't know what to call them before until I saw a video about schizophrenia myself of this girl named Amateur Aries. Please look her up, she's awesome. That she best describes these anti-hallucinations as movies that play behind your eyes. So kind of like a daydream, but not really, more real, because when you have a daydream you could tell it's a daydream, you kind of like doze out a bit or whatever. When I have these anti-hallucinations, they're very strong, they're they're so strong that I sometimes have to take a step back and figure out if what I really saw was real. An example of this is one time that I was with my husband, hanging out with my husband, and I pictured myself getting a pencil and stabbing him in the hand. And for a second, I almost thought it was true. I almost thought that I truly hurt him, and I would cry and I would be inconsolable. It'd be times where I sometimes would picture myself hurting my children. Not that I ever have, but where I thought for a split second that I truly did something horrible, and I have to calm down and recheck myself into reality and realize that I didn't really do this, and it was an anti-hallucination instead, where I'm not actually seeing it visible happen, but I'm seeing it so clearly in my head it almost seems real. I also see shadow people, where it's like shadows coming out of shadows. Like when you stare in a dark corner of your room and you kind of feel like your mind plays tricks on you and the darkness moves. It's kind of like that, but you know, when you turn on a light, it goes away. Mine becomes so real that I don't move. I'm too afraid to turn the lights. They become humanoid. I see hands, I see faces, I see creatures come out of the darkness sometimes. Sometimes it's just a quick flash where I can blink and shake my head and everything's okay, but other times they don't go away. And the solution we found for that is actually really silly. My husband, 6'4", 200 plus pounds, giant of a man, likes to ballerina dance around the room or wherever it is, so that way I could focus on him instead of these hallucinations, and it works wonderfully for me all the time. It makes me laugh and it brings a little bit of joy into the situation because he looks so silly doing it. And I do have different kinds of hallucinations, and possibly in the future when I have more I could show you some that. I do have different kinds of hallucination, and really depends on the day, but those are the most prevalent ones. Those are most ones that happen most often. If you have any questions, feel free to message me, like and subscribe, share my video, guys. Bye!